Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy, he is in his late 30s, and he's going to share this great story that I think a lot of you guys are really going to like, even though it's long, how essentially he really laid down the law with his wife recently when she pushed him too far with regards to things going on in their lives dealing with the in-laws. And he laid down the law so well that now she is treating him like the king. In fact, more like the emperor. And not only is she treating him great outside the bedroom, but most certainly inside the bedroom. And it all took him laying down the law and make it abundantly clear that he doesn't get what he wants, and she crosses him again, he's walking. Divorcing her, done. And like that. But you're going to see here, guys, this story, which is quite interesting. He married his wife young, and she got pregnant, which you're going to see. And this was a guy that really had nothing going on for him, but he was on his purpose to provide for his family. And as time went on, he got certified in this, got certified in that, and started making more and more money, even though he was a father and had kids and a wife and all that. So this is a dude who is on his grind, and he made something of himself, but he obviously lost some of his strength along the way, but he gets it back in the story. And it's a great one about grind, purpose, laying down the law, being masculine, how a man has to be the man of the house. It's his house, and you'll see more when I get into this about his in-laws. And by the way, any of you guys that are married that have pain-in-the-ass in-laws that overstep their bounds, outstay their welcome, meddle in your affairs, you're going to appreciate this one here, absolutely. So a lot of things about strength and all that. So without further ado, because this is a long one, but a good one, starts off, he says, hey SSM, long-time listener here, occasional commenter, first-time caller. My wife and I have been married for 20 years in June. We got married when we found out that she was pregnant with our oldest son almost 20 years ago. We were both 19 years old at the time. We got married on a beach in Florida. It wasn't easy being very young, naive. We both had a lot of growing up to do. My wife has always been a great mother to my two boys. We had another boy when we were both 26. We bought a home in March of 2005, and we've been in the home for 17 years. The first 8 or so years of marriage were a roller coaster. I worked a lot of hours in the warehousing and logistics industries, operating forklifts, working lots of overtime to make ends meet. I didn't have a formal education beyond high school, so making a lot of money seemed like it was a distant reality. I first met my wife through Yahoo Messenger. I bet most of your listeners won't know what that is pre-Facebook and social media. Yeah, well, I know what it is, dude. I was born in 1978. I remember Yahoo Messenger. I remember AOL Instant Messenger. I remember AOL chat rooms on AOL. Oh, yeah. Anybody above about 38, anybody 40 years old, upper 30s and up knows about Yahoo Messenger and everything pre-Facebook. We've been talking for a year or so at that point. I taught her how to set up a phone call over the internet so we wouldn't need to long-distance call on the landline. Another thing some of your listeners won't know about. 9/11 happened, and we were talking on the phone about it. I mentioned that a couple guys from my job had gone to enlist in the military. She asked me what I wanted to do. I told her the military has an option, but so was she and me. And she was the better way to go. I was laying in bed that evening wondering where my life was going, other than my job and a little money I had in my pocket. I didn't have any real direction. I was 19 years old and a line cook, whoopee. My stepbrothers were younger than me and kept asking me why I didn't have a real girlfriend or a car. I didn't drive at the time, I didn't have a lot to offer, and I knew no girl would want to wait to date a guy that didn't drive or had any real direction in life. Absolutely. It's like that song from 1990, Young MC, Bust a Move. Got no money and you got no car and you got no woman, and there you are. Get your fucking license, learn to drive, guys. And get some direction and some money. There, you heard me rap. He says here, yes, there's this girl I've been talking to on the phone, but let's be real. She could have been talking to 4 of the dudes as well. It wasn't really real until it was in person. So he's been talking to this chick on Yahoo Messenger for a year. Nothing really going on in his life. Well, things are about to get interesting. I decided that night that the next morning when we were on the phone, I was going to ask her how serious she was about us. Her response would tell me everything. She didn't hesitate. She liked me and wanted it to be more, but the geographic distance prohibited it. I said, what if I were to come see you for a couple weeks, take a vacation, and see what comes of it? So we started planning a trip to see each other. Fisher cut bait. My dad was not thrilled that I wanted to travel from Orlando to Milwaukee to meet a girl. I know, smack coming. I need to know, was this real or was this some girl that was playing with my emotions? Dude, you were going from Orlando to Milwaukee? Orlando is beautiful. I love Orlando. And I have to wonder, did you end up in Milwaukee compared to Orlando? Fast forward a few weeks and I'm in the freezing cold Wisconsin. Oh, whoopee. We met for the first time in the airport. We had you-know-what that same night. Being in person and not over the phone for the first time in nearly 2 years, neither of us really knew what to expect. It was great initially. We spent a lot of time together, had regular sex, and were finally a couple. Yeah, you were talking for 2 years, but it's nothing until you actually meet in person. I say that loosely, as I was only supposed to be there for a couple weeks. We knew that at the time I was there, the time needed to be used efficiently. She worked during the day, I would hang out at the house, she lived with her parents, and she had a license and a car and a phone. She told me at the very end of my stay that her period was late. I had heard the expression before, but struggled to process it. Did I seriously get her pregnant? Good Lord, man. After 2 years of talking, you go up there to see her, and after a few rolling in the hay, she gets pregnant? This is what I tell guys all the time. Wear protection. Dispose of protection, etc., etc. He says, yep, well now I had a decision to make. Be a man and raise a child I helped create, or be a bitch and run away and pay child support. We talked about it. I told her I didn't believe in abortion and I wouldn't give up the child for adoption. I would be the father to my child and I'd be there for her the best I know how. She cried and said she didn't want an abortion either and wanted to keep the baby. She loved me and wanted us to be together. We ended up getting married a few months later, and later that year our son was born. You got married at 20 years old, and you only met that girl in person for just a matter of weeks and all that. Smack. Now, I know you were doing what you thought was right at the time, and you didn't want to be some dude that took off and all that. And I get where you're coming from and respect it, but still, it is not wise to marry a chick just on the basis that she got pregnant. There's nothing wrong with, okay, it happened, fine, it's mine, and paying support because, legally you should, and it is the right thing to do if it's your child. But now I do also get that, obviously you've been talking for a couple of years, but, generally speaking, guys, like I said in many videos, do not get married just because you got a girl pregnant or whatever. It doesn't make you a bitch, but just this situation's a little different, but still. Fortunately, you're going to see guys in this situation, it does work out for him, thank God. Anyhow, he says, we bought a home in March of 2005. And by the way, guys, we're getting to the good stuff soon. We got to build up here because it's a long story. We bought a home in March of 2005, and I did what any man that takes responsibility for his action does. I worked a couple of jobs so my wife could raise this child and stay at home as a mom. I have a strong work ethic for my parents and maintained 2 jobs for a few years until I got into warehousing industry and learned about overtime. He says I worked a lot of overtime. I did that for about 5 years until I was in my mid-20s. I then started to realize that working 70 hours a week wasn't sustainable, but it paid the bills. Yeah, that will wear you down, and especially if you're working overtime and you're exhausted and you realize you're still just barely paying the bills. That's when it's time to reevaluate and try to find a better paying job or skills to make it that you can make the same pay but not have to work all the time and you're exhausted constantly. But I respect you for busting your ass, being on your grind, taking care of your family. That's what a man does. So I respect that. But now you got to go from working hard to both working hard and smart, and you're going to see he does. I knew I needed to get a better job, and that was obvious. But how do you get more money when you don't have any formal training? He says, simple. Go back to school and put yourself through the training. Duh. Exactly. But most people would rather bitch and complain and feel they should be given more than actually working to improve their situation and get certifications. Work, God forbid. So that was what I did at 27 years old. I took night classes at my local tech school for networking and network security. I've always had a head for computers, and I think logically already. I picked up a lot of the technologies very quickly. I learned about IT certifications along the way, a method of learning and taking a test to prove you know what's going on. He says you pass, you earn a credential that you can now get on your resume. Boom, formal training and a specialized skill. I now had some good specific goals and direction, which coupled together makes way for success. Success happens when preparation and opportunity meet. Exactly, bro. Good for you for doing that. And you know what? I'm willing to bet you that if you didn't have a wife and child or children to take care of, you would have been so motivated to bust your butt and make this happen. So you did what you had to do for your family, and that's really cool. He says, all of my spare time was poured into IT stuff. I watched videos, took notes, read books, and built labs to reinforce the knowledge. See, he's always learning, he's always growing, he's improving his skills constantly to help him move up in the world. That's what a man does. Sadly, we're in an era now that nobody wants to work for anything. Nobody wants to put any effort in. They feel like it should just be handed to them. Bullshit. This is a fucking man right here, guys. This is what I want all you guys doing. I ended up taking a few IT exams and passed them. Now I was CompTIA A+, and Cisco CCNA certified. I added these credentials to the resume and boom, job opportunities poured in. There you go. I ended up earning more money, worked a regular 40-ish hour work week, and we had savings. Awesome. Good for you. I still left the house every morning to go to work. I had a direction to go in, and I was constantly hungry for the next challenge. There you go. Now I've laid out the background, let's fast forward to the past few years where things become more interesting. Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. For you guys that like to listen to this stuff while you're driving to and from work, this is perfect for you. From 2005 through 2017 or so, my in-laws were over every night for dinner. Every night your in-laws were over? That's a pain in the ass. This is when you set some boundaries, my friend. I would see them daily, whether I wanted to or not. Their presence didn't really bother me that much since I was always grinding on the next certification or project from work. In 2017, I started working from home on a regular basis, 3 days a week. This is when I started to notice how often my in-laws were over. It wasn't uncommon for them to show up at 7 o'clock in the morning, make their breakfast, head off to work, then come over in the evening for dinner. Your in-laws are at your house at 7 o'clock in the morning when you're heading out for breakfast, and they come over again at night. Don't they have anything else going on in their lives? How does this not bother your wife? I mean, I get it. Once, maybe twice a week for dinner, that's okay. Be a part of your wife's life, the grandkids and all that, but every freaking day, get the hell out. I had a more senior role at this point, not the break/fix I had done earlier in my career when I had first gotten started. I went full-time to work from home in 2018 and have been there ever since. I love the freedom. Traffic is a distant memory. However, with the removal of one annoyance, enter another. My in-laws. I liken them to locusts. They follow my wife wherever she goes and take over any place they go. It's rather obnoxious, actually. Her dad has been medically retired since 2016, a workplace accident. And he has nothing else to do than mooch off you guys and never go the hell away. But at the end of the day, man, you're the man of the house. This is your house, and I know you know this now. You should be setting the terms, laying down the law, setting boundaries. And if you don't do it, people are going to take advantage of it. That's how a lot of people are. But don't worry, guys, he does. I mentioned here and there to my wife that it would be nice if they would stay at home instead of hogging my TV and living room. She told me that I'm always in the office working on something, so why should she make them go home if they're not really in the way? I didn't stand up for myself, and their presence only worsened. There you go. You see, you weren't, from your description here, totally direct saying, I don't want them here anymore. You were just saying, it's annoying and things like that. That's what women do. They drop hints and hope that guys figure it out. Men need to be direct, saying, enough is enough, blah, 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 they're going. But he wasn't quite there yet. My day-to-day consists of MS Teams meetings with different customers, balancing different projects and their priorities, some travel if it's required. I work from home, so during the day I treat my home office as such. I have a light outside my office door that lights up red when I'm on a call. It's no secret what I do for a living. I've been doing it for almost 15 years. My in-laws have gotten older, late 60s, and retired. So they are both over pretty constantly. Every once in a while I lose my cool and tell them to get out. My wife would start a fight with me to be nice to them. This went on for 5 years. It didn't really become an issue until my work from home became a constant. 5 years you were dealing with this shit? You should have dealt with it for 5 days. Problem is, you're not laying down the law to your wife. All right? You're the man of the house, not her. Everything you have, everything that she enjoys is because of you. Busting your ass, on your grind, on your purpose, all that. So a man needs his space. So if she's not going to respect that, well, that's a problem. And let me tell you guys, the way he handles this, it becomes a 180 as the story goes on here. A perfect lesson about how men need to be the man of the house, lay down the law, and be willing to walk if they're crossed. Fast forward to the end of last year, I received a YouTube recommendation for your content and a few other channels. At first, I was skeptical. Yeah, I've heard that before. Some dude in the car with the sunglasses telling dudes how about life and being successful and all that. I can see your your issue. But then I grow on you, huh? He says, at first I was skeptical, but I listened to the stories, mostly about infidelity, which I found entertaining. I'd feel bad for the guy getting walked all over. Some dudes I was impressed by as they wouldn't take it and would send their cheating wife packing. When I started listening to you and a couple other channels, certain things started to resonate. Working on my purpose, laying down the law, maintaining order in my home, demanding respect, and not to be a doormat. I wouldn't say I was total blue pill. I still regular good you-know-what with my wife. I control my children. I felt respected by my family, but totally disrespected by my in-laws. I brought this up a few times since the beginning of 2022, and little to nothing has been done about it with my wife. Did you bring it up directly, or did you bring it up and just mentioning how irritated you are, hoping that she would then jump in and say, okay, babe, I'll tell mom and dad only to come by twice a week? There's a difference. I've been indulging myself in relationship advice on Reddit and reading dead bedroom posts. I wanted to educate myself on marriages. I need to figure out how good or bad my marriage was. After a few weeks of reading posts from both subreddits and listening to your content, I determined that I was a doormat. I was being disrespected by my in-laws and being taken advantage of. I wasn't happy at all. I was pretty pissy most of the time that they were here. Well, you identified the problem. Now it's time to deal with it. And he does. I had finally made up my mind that I wasn't going to give my wife a choice. You either make your parents stay home and respect that this is my home, not theirs, or I will leave you and you can have your parents over as much as you want. Ironically, I was assigned a project with a customer that had a very aggressive deployment schedule that demanded a lot of hours to successfully deploy their network. I ended up working for 2 weeks on their design and 3 16-hour days in a row on that deployment. On the last day, around 10 at night, I came out of my office mentally fried to get a drink from the kitchen and some food. I see my father-in-law sitting on my couch watching TV. What the hell is he doing there at your house at 10 o'clock at night? Oh my God, man. How you put up with this for so long, but you know you're being a doormat. Okay, I'm glad you can accept that. 10 o'clock at night. Get the fuck out of here, old man. Go to your own goddamn house and sit on your freaking lazy boy and leave me the hell alone. That moment was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. I looked right at him and said, it's 10 p.m., turn off the TV and go home. I don't want you to hear this late ever again just to watch television. He looked at me, shook his head in disgust. His show wasn't over and he left. He peeled rubber down the street. I went and lay down in my bed. My wife laid next to me and wanted to cuddle me. I pushed her away and said, I need to get some things off my chest and it will not be easy for you to hear, but you're going to hear about it anyway. Good for you. Here we go, guys. I told her that if she didn't push her family away and give me the space I needed from them, that I was going to walk away and not look back. I didn't care how much it would hurt me financially, it would be worth the freedom from them. I gave her a week to make a decision, and her decision would determine if she stayed married or not. Good. Direct and to the point. He didn't flinch. He didn't stutter. Right then and there. I'm walking away. I don't care if I get hammered in the divorce process. I don't care if you take the house. I don't care if you get the kids. But you know what? I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore, and you're going to be alone. That is how far you pushed me. And watch what happens. The next day, I had to be back up early again. The same aggressive customer needed something. I came out of my office around 11 a.m. The house is quiet. I was actually surprised. No blaring TV or noisy phone. Her parents weren't over. Hallelujah, it's a miracle. She was sitting at the kitchen table. I came downstairs for some food. She asked me what I wanted and she made it for me. She then sat me down and told me she didn't realize how upset I was, and me giving her the ultimatum made her realize that I wasn't playing around. There you go. He laid down the law and is willing to walk. Guys, you must be willing to walk, and you have to mean it. And when they know you're going to walk and not care what happens, because frankly, your freedom and your respect is more important than money and all that, works every time. She called her mom and told her mom to stay home. If her family came over without invitation, it could cost her marriage. She wasn't willing to lose all that she had just to see her family. Now, she knew you were unhappy, so I don't buy this whole thing. I didn't realize. She knew you were unhappy, but you didn't handle it in the right way. And I know you know this, but now you do. I told her that I never said she couldn't see her family. She could see them whenever she wanted to. I'd never stand in the way of that. Just they couldn't be over as much. I asked her if she realized how many hours a week they were over. The look of guilt and shame came over her face, and she asked how many hours. I said on average 48. That's a full-time work week spent at our house. 48 hours. Get a freaking life, in-laws or outlaws. Find a hobby. Go play bridge. Go play shuffleboard if you're in Florida. I still don't know if they're in Florida or I still don't know if they're in Orlando or Milwaukee. Please tell me you guys are in Orlando. Get a hobby, but stay the hell away. You want to come over once a week for dinner with the family and the grandkids? Okay, but every day, That's ridiculous. Way too many hours. This happened about 8 weeks ago. In the first few weeks after putting my foot down, it still surprises her how much more calm the house is. The stress level is gone. We're able to enjoy each other's company the way it's meant to be and had. Our sex life has also improved. We're able to be more adventurous. Isn't that interesting? You're able to be more adventurous because A, the in-laws aren't around, so she doesn't feel uncomfortable. But also, I guarantee you, she also probably is more attracted to you now that you're acting very masculine, take charge. You're acting alpha, showing you're the man of the house. And so she probably finds you more attractive, is willing to be more frisky and adventurous. And probably she wants to be in your good graces, so she's willing to be a lot more accommodating, if you will, to your wants and desires than before, because she doesn't want you to walk. This is what happens when men have leverage. I love my wife and kids. I didn't want to walk away. I also didn't want to make her choose. But by her own admission, she didn't realize the impact it was having. I don't know if I totally buy that. I told her I'm not going to be a nice guy about it either. I will tell them to their faces that it's time to go, or I've had enough. They aren't over very often anymore. A couple of days a week for an hour or so, 1 or 2 nights a week for dinner if I'm putting a big piece of meat on the smoker. Okay, that's reasonable, once or twice. We like to try out our new recipes and enjoy our time together. I truly did get lucky in the wife department, but even if our direct one-on-one relationship never really suffered, the outside forces almost ruined a pretty solid marriage. The bottom line here is that the man needs to exert his dominance in a healthy way. You don't need to be a dick about it, but if your concerns and frustrations aren't being taken seriously, as a man, you need to let your wife or girlfriend or fiance know that actions have consequences. The correct actions need to be taken or the relationship will suffer. If my wife had chosen her family over me, I was 100% ready to move on. Good. You have to do that, guys. I cannot make that any more clear. And the more she has lost respect for you, the harder it's going to be her to take you seriously. Okay, if you've been a doormat your whole life, and I mean this guy has been obviously a doormat with regards to the in-laws, but in other areas, obviously, he's obviously a man's man. But if this is a really worn down guy who's been a doormat in every area of his life, and suddenly he's laying down the law, it's not going to go as easy. I want to make that clear. Okay, so this is why from the get-go you got to show who's in charge. And he said right here, you don't have to be a dick about it, okay? But you do exert your dominance in a different type of way. I'm proud of you, man. Good job. He says here that she had my wife did ask me what I would have done. I told her I would have packed a bag and some IT stuff in the car and would have bought myself another home. I would have redirected my paycheck to another checking account, and she would have needed to get her family to help pay for the home that they were always at. I would have filed for divorce and lived a life of solitude until another woman came along and I'd have my fun with her instead. I told her I will still execute on those plans if her family tried to weasel their way back into my home on a regular basis, and she didn't shut it down. Good. You made it clear your word is eternal. That this isn't just for this week. This is going forward. And if they try to weasel their way back in, and I guarantee you they will, and she allows this, I'm walking. Same thing. And notice he said here, I'll live in solitude until I find somebody else. And he would. Remember, woman knows you can walk away, and a woman knows that you can replace her like that. Night and day in terms of the attitude. And by the way, guys, in case you've ever wondered, yes, I have experience in that, and yes, it works every time. And that's why I teach it. She had a genuine look of fear when I said that. I said it wasn't an empty threat. It was a promise to leave her if she had chosen them over me. Now she does stuff like take things to her family, leaves at our house over to her parents' house, so they don't have a reason to come over. She apologized several times for not taking me seriously. We're both working towards being better spouses to each other, and that is really all I ever wanted, for us to be a real couple. Her family has complained a bunch to her about me being an a-hole, which I find comical. She still has regular contact with them, but now she goes over to their house for the most part to see them, which is only a couple times a week. She's with me and the boys the rest of the time. Good. And of course they're going to complain. And you know what? Let them think you're an a-hole. You know why? If they think you're an a-hole, you're doing the job right. Okay? Good for you. Her folks still call every day to see if she needs anything. She tells them we're good, and they sound disappointed and hang up. It's a way of trying to come over. Her brother told her he's pissed at me for making her choose, and I'm not grateful to her parents for all they've done for me. She told him that he's full of it. He'll never understand the dynamics of a marriage since he's single and chooses to be. He called BS on it. And the reality is marriage is complicated. Kids, finances, love life, space, and peace of mind are all things that we need. I wasn't happy with the situation and needed change. She told him she loves me and can't see herself with anyone else. He didn't want to hear that, but he also had never had a long-term girlfriend, so he doesn't understand the emotional and physical connections. The hell with her brother. Tell the brother you can kiss your ass. You think she's going to choose the brother over you? And say, you know what? He ain't welcome in the house. And by the way, I want to mention that when she married you, you became her family. You're number one, not her parents, you. That's the way it used to be. That's the way it should be. It says, I can say that putting my foot down and laying down a solid boundaries has been tested. I've had to tell her that it's time for her family to get going when she invites them over for dinner. God, those pain in the asses still poke around and stay over. Not surprised. They still see their kids regularly, which is important. We have a travel trailer that is currently at a campsite. We end up getting our own camper at the site so we have our own spaces. My wife didn't realize how enmeshed her family was until after some pushback. She's now kicking herself for not pushing back sooner. Well, better late than never. He says, well, that's it. Thought you and your listeners may get a chuckle out of the story, and maybe someone can relate to the overbearing family. Have a good one, man. Keep up the good work. If I ever get to the Boston area, I owe you a beer of your choice. Thanks. You're welcome. And I will take a strong IPA for that drink. So, guys, great story here. Great lesson about laying down the law. You have to be the man of the house. You have to command respect. And you can't be a doormat. And this guy did a great job from the get-go of taking care of his family, being the man, all that stuff like that. I wouldn't have rushed into the marriage like he did, but what happened, happened. And I'm glad overall, with the exception of the whole in-law bullshit, that he's had a pretty good deal with them. That's cool. But with that department with the in-laws, yeah, he was being a doormat. And notice how he said he was bringing up how he was showing her he was annoyed with them being over. But in the way he wrote this, he didn't directly say, enough. They're out of here. Get them out of here. They're here too much. You know, he didn't really lay down the law. Look what happened. Until finally he had too much, made abundantly clear, I'm walking. I don't care if I lose the house, the money, the kids, I'll replace you. I'll get a new house. Fine, I'll recover. And that's that. And she did not want to lose him, so just like that, the next morning, no in-laws. I guarantee she got up at the crack of dawn, got on that phone and said, don't come over. Right then and there. And that's the way it has to be. And as you say, you don't have to be a dick about it, but you got to enforce boundaries. And this goes not just with marriage or relation, but anything in life, because people will take advantage of you. They don't care. So guys, great story here. Great lesson about this type of thing. So I'm proud of this guy, and I wish him all the best. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.